And right now at 5, a month full of music kicking off in San Francisco.
This is like somewhere around my 50th show. It's a feeling that I get, when I hang out with people.
We are tapping into all of the excitement as the city celebrates 60 years of the Grateful Dead this weekend. In the South Bay, community leaders have launched a new effort to protect immigrants who become a victim or a witness to a crime. We're going to hear from supporters who say it's going to make the community a whole lot safer.
Plenty of clouds already coming back on shore. You can see what the marine layer looks like out here off the coast, watching it creep in on that time lapse. We got to talk about your weekend. I'll get you ready for Dead and Company and whatever else you might be doing. Forecast coming up.
And plus, you probably have seen it if you've ever driven on Highway 101 in the North Bay. The total transformation in the works for the old Birkenstock campus that's been sitting empty for years.
It's really the power of imagination that we're hoping to spark.
CBS News Bay Area Evening Edition with Ryan Yamamoto.
Hi, I'm Devin Feely in for Ryan today. A week-long tribute to the Grateful Dead is about to take over Golden Gate Park. It kicks off a month that is full of concerts expected to bring hundreds of thousands of people to the city. Grateful Dead fans, they lined up this morning eager to get their hands on some merch, t-shirts and hats and other merchandise. Lauren Toms joins us live outside of Yerba Buena Gardens in Soma, where many of them and many celebrations just got underway about a half hour ago, Lauren.
Yeah, hey, Devin. Well, the good vibes are starting as the Deadheads have descended upon San Francisco for this grateful gathering here in Yerba Buena. Now, more than 100,000 Deadheads are expected to attend a 3-day Dead and Company concert series in Golden Gate Park this weekend. That just kicks off a historic 3-week summer concert series in Golden Gate Park, expected to bring more than 400,000 people to San Francisco. Now, this weekend, the Deadheads will be not only bringing good vibes, but celebrating good memories.
The band called the Grateful Dead have announced they will make music in the park.
What a long, strange trip it's been. And for Arlen Owensby, that trip leads back to where it all began, in San Francisco. The self-described Deadhead from Seattle has been chasing the vibe since the early days, attending nearly every concert the Grateful Dead and now Dead and Company have played.
This is like somewhere around my 50th show. It's a feeling that I get, when I hang out with people.
He's picking up some fresh merchandise at this pop-up at the Bill Graham Auditorium before the 3-day concert series kicks off at Golden Gate Park's iconic Polo Fields, where the band played 60 years ago. And while some fans will be wearing flowers in their hair, Arlen will be passing them out in honor of a love that never fades.
And I give roses away in remembrance of my late wife, because we've done many shows together, so I just hand roses out and have a good time.
Dead and Company just keeps trucking, starting on August 1st. A full weekend pass starts at $635, a far cry from the few bucks it took to catch the band back in the 60s. But even with steep prices, the Summer of Sound is expected to bring in big-time returns to the tune of an estimated $150 million in economic impact for the city, thanks not only to this series, but also the Outside Lands Music Festival beginning on August 8th, and a one-night show with Zach Bryan and Kings of Leon on August 15th.
Visitors from across the region and across the world are coming to our city. For the next month, San Francisco is going to be the music capital of the world.
This marks the first time Golden Gate Park has hosted 3 weeks of back-to-back-to-back concerts, transforming the sprawling fields into a world of good vibes and potentially a soft security target. Interim Police Chief Paul Yep says his department is ready with a mix of on-duty and overtime officers.
San Francisco is safer than any time in many of our lifetimes.
But this weekend is about the feeling the music brings.
What we're thinking about is a peaceful planet. We're not thinking about anything else.
Rec and Parks Director Phil Ginsburg admits 3 weekends of music may strike a sour note for some neighbors, but promises the joy and civic benefit will be worth it. The neighboring Richmond and Sunset districts will receive about $35,000 each to their associations as part of a Goodwill Encore.
Great cities do great things, and to say that there is no inconvenience to the neighborhoods on something like this with so many people coming into the park isn't true. The idea here is to bring so much joy and some of the lasting benefit and economic impact, benefits our park system, and benefits these neighborhoods year round.
And as Arlen heads back to the polo fields, he won't just be surrounded by music, but by a family of friends, old and new, chasing a familiar feeling.
It's all about the love. It's all about the way people feel.
Now, a series of free concerts will be coming to the city in September. The first on September 7th in Union Square. The second on September 13th, just confirmed today in Civic Center, featuring Shaboozey. So, Devin, plenty of good times to come in San Francisco.
All right, thank you very much, Lauren. Now, we did talk to some deadheads in Berkeley today who say that the high-dollar concerts are not true to the spirit of the Grateful Dead.
I'm all for people making money, but it seems a little excessive to me. I'm sure it's a big production. It costs a lot to put on, but I don't know. Couldn't they have done it for $100? $150 maybe?
Of course, along with the huge crowds coming to Golden Gate Park, there's also road closures and detours. Several streets and walkways are closed, including Middle Drive and stretches of JFK Drive, and they're going to stay closed for the next couple of weeks through a series of concerts. The roads are set to reopen by August 20th. The warning period is about to be over for drivers caught by San Francisco's 33 automatic speed cameras. The city is set to start handing out its first citations on Tuesday. That means tickets and fines. Violators will be hit with $50 fines or more, depending on how fast they were going when they were caught speeding. In the meantime, the initial information from the 60-day warning period that began back in June suggests that the cameras are helping. SFMTA said that on average there is about 250 of those speeding incidents a day during the first weeks that the cameras were up and running, but that number dropped by more than 30% 6 weeks later. The data also shows that 70% of the drivers who got a warning during the trial period didn't speed past a camera again. That means there weren't repeat offenders, that they learned their lessons, presumably. Now, the transit agency is expected to release more results at the 18-month mark. They're also planning to install bigger speed limit signs and more markers in areas where the most violations occur. The Department of Justice has requested the personal information of non-citizens who have attempted to register to vote in San Francisco. The DOJ is asking for 5 years' worth of records on applications, including voting history, date of birth, and driver's license numbers. San Francisco's election department is asking the DOJ to clarify its authority for that request and whether the records will be kept confidential within the DOJ. It does plan to respond by August 29th. We're just hours away from President Trump's August 1st deadline for countries to strike a deal or face significantly higher tariffs. It comes after months of trade negotiations between the U.S. and its trading partners, which has produced some wins for the U.S., including a $600 billion investment from the European Union. But some countries, like Canada, are not playing ball, and meanwhile, pending litigation could put an end to tariffs entirely.
The authority for them is based on the president's emergency powers, and there's a court case pending on that, and the federal circuit could decide that he doesn't have those powers, in which case he's not allowed to levy these tariffs.
Other tariffs set to kick in at midnight include a 50% tariff on Brazil, a 25% tariff on India, and a 50% tariff on certain copper products. Meanwhile, Mexico was given a 90-day pause on higher tariffs to continue negotiating a new trade deal. Hundreds of kids in the South Bay are in need of help. A donation drive to give school supplies to homeless students is nearly 75% short of its goal within just weeks until school starts. Kevin Coe has more on the call for help.
It's summer camp at the Haven Family House in Menlo Park. 23 families, including kids, facing homelessness live here, one of several family housing facilities run by Life Moves, which works to find families permanent housing.
To eventually be housed, I feel like that's what motivates me and makes me stay here.
Kayla Reyna started as a case manager and is now a children's services coordinator. She helps run the summer camp for some of Silicon Valley's most forgotten kids facing homelessness in the tech capital of the world.
They don't really get to experience that being a kid. A lot of them have to support their families with taking care of their siblings and just being there to support their parents.
To support the kids, Kayla and Life Moves hold an annual backpack drive, which also provides pencils, notebooks, and other school supplies to students in need.
Markers, crayons.
But the drive has been much slower than years past, falling 600 backpacks short of the goal.
The beginning of the school year, it's very exciting to go and buy your school supplies and go to the store, but many of our kids don't have that opportunity. But the moment they see that backpack with different supplies, you can see their eyes light up and just see like, that's my backpack. And I'm trying to get pushed. I don't even know why I'm crying, I'm so sorry. But just being part of this community where you see these families struggled, and the parents try their best to give their kids maybe a different life that they received growing up. And you see their motivation too. You might think that a backpack drive is not a huge thing, but it is for these kids.
The Life Moves Back to School Backpack Drive ends on August 15th. Organizers ask that you please contact Life Moves before dropping anything off to protect everyone's privacy. We are once again seeing record numbers of vaccination exemptions for children in the United States. That is according to federal data posted today. According to the CDC, the number of kids exempted from vaccine requirements rose to 4.1% in the last school year. That is up from 3.7% the previous year. The CDC says that is the third year in a row that the exemption rate has gone up. Now, meanwhile, the CDC says that more than 92% of kindergartners in the last school year got their required measles, mumps, and rubella or MMR shots. That is slightly down from the year before. It comes as the CDC says that the United States is experiencing its worst year for measles in over 3 decades, with more than 1,300 cases so far. Today, South Bay leaders threw their support behind a congressional bill to expand protections for undocumented immigrants who are victims or witnesses to crimes. Lynn Ramirez is in San Jose with why they say that this bill is necessary for public safety now more than ever.
Well, law enforcement here in Santa Clara County say they are starting to see a drop-off in certain crimes, not necessarily because crime is down, but because certain people, especially those in the immigrant community, are afraid to report crimes, or even if they're a victim of crime, because they're afraid of being deported. And so today, a wide coalition of leaders here in Santa Clara County came together to support an effort to push for more protective visas for the immigrant population, so they will no longer be afraid to cooperate with police.
Police say they believe serious violent crimes are going unreported, uninvestigated, and unpunished, and it could have to do with recently stepped up ICE enforcement actions in San Jose and elsewhere around the county.
We are seeing somewhat of a decline in reported incidents of domestic violence, sexual assault, and calls for service for disturbances. Those are all the types of things that happen, inside of a home for the most part, and the very kinds of crimes where the survivors are going to have a really have that wrestle with that thought of, if I ask for help, is this going to have an impact for me?
That's why Chief Paul Joseph joined San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan, members of the Board of Supervisors, and immigrant community leaders to support a bill authored by Monterey Congressman Jimmy Panetta. The bill would increase the number of U&T visas nationwide, currently capped at 10,000, that would protect crime victims or witnesses who assist police and prosecutors from deportation. The visas can also lead to getting a green card.
Now, the bill that I've put together, the Immigrant Witness and Victim Protection Act, would protect cooperating victims and witnesses by preventing them from being deported while they await processing their U&T visas. It would eliminate that arbitrary cap of 10,000, and it would allow applicants to have work permits while awaiting processing of their U&T visas. It's a very straightforward, simple, commonsensical fix that's needed now more than ever.
Panetta says it's a law and order bill that could
para
find
apoyar esta
bipartisan support
legislación que es
on
súper
Capitol Hill.
importante. It helps them know that when they report crime, they will not be deported.
Under Sheriff
This is
Dalia
something that is
Rodriguez
critical
says
for our
fear in the
office because we
community
want to
has been
continue
so
to maintain
high
that
where
relationship
deputies
with
have
our
often been mistaken for Border Patrol officers because of the green color of their uniforms.
And people have gone up to our cars and asked us, why is ICE here? And we have to tell them this is not ICE, this is Sheriff's Office. And a lot of the times it takes them a little bit to kind of allow us to continue to do our job.
Dahlia is herself an immigrant from El Salvador and says the job of law enforcement depends on community cooperation and trust.
And San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan says the Trump administration's immigration enforcement and rhetoric has had a chilling effect on his city, where more than 40% of residents are immigrants. Here in the Bay Area, things are warming up. We're going to get a bit of a warming trend that's going to carry us through the weekend into early next week. I'm joined now by meteorologist Darren Peck. The hottest days, if I recall from yesterday, if things haven't changed, Tuesday and Wednesday.
A little bit later now, kind of like midweek. Think like midweek of next week. We got to go to the low 90s if you're inland. And we're going to get a little taste of that this weekend too. So when we talk about a warm up in relation to this summer, all things are relative. This is not going to be crazy heat. It's going to be warmer than you've been, but that's not saying much. I'll show you what I mean. The first thing, before I even get to the warm up, look over my shoulder. That is a live picture from the top of the Mark Hopkins Hotel. You could probably pick out the landmarks. That's Angel Island. There's Alcatraz. Here's the Ferris wheel down at Fisherman's Wharf. That is a thunderstorm out there. Can you see it? We got a little bit of the marine layer streaming in here, but look past it, like way past it. That big billowing cloud is probably about 150, 200, maybe more than that, probably a couple hundred miles north. And it is so tall that you can see it almost like it's in the North Bay. Look what happens when we transition our view on that. Let's look inside those clouds. Look at the thunderstorms that are going on across the northern part of the state. Was doing this yesterday. This is part of the forecast. We saw this for the past few days. I'll show you what's driving this in a second. But first, that thunderstorm we were looking at, it's the bolt right here through Tehama County. And just within about the last 20 minutes, it's turned into a pretty good little thunderstorm. There's a lot of lightning with that. Now, there's also a lot of rain. If we come in for a closer look at that, there's a good downpour of rain in it. It aligns nicely with the lightning, but you can get lightning strikes 10 miles away from thunderstorms where it is not raining. This is not a huge fire risk, fire weather concern risk, but anytime we get lightning this time of year across Northern California, it's a concern. And that's not the only one. There's a lot going on again. We've had this happen for the last week or so, and we have not seen any significant fire starts. So that is good news, and hopefully we can assume that trend will continue, but just so you can see what's going on there. All right, let's come back home because we do not have a thunderstorm threat here at home. What we've got is the marine layer building back in again tonight. See it starting to work its way onshore here as it's creeping inland and starting to come up and work its way onshore. And if we change our perspective on this forecast and watch those thunderstorms just kind of dwindle tonight and come back home to watch the marine layer, this is how it's creeping in over Sutro Mountain. And if we put it into the high-resolution futurecast, we can watch it build back in again. So here is your Friday. Friday morning, probably have clear skies for the Santa Clara Valley. Probably don't get a whole lot of this inland, but everybody else will wake up to the gray skies at 7 a.m. tomorrow and then watch it melt back. It melts back just about everywhere except there, right over the city and the peninsula. If you're coming out to Golden Gate Park, it's going to be classic early August weather for anybody going to Dead & Company. It'll be cloudy, it'll be mid-60s, it'll be fantastic. It'll be exactly what you would expect the weather to be in Golden Gate Park without a whole lot of clearness. You'll probably get maybe a few breaks, but just plan on it being gray and cool and a bit breezy. All right, that covers the forecast there. It'll probably stay that way all weekend. Let me show you what it's going to feel like in case you're not going to Dead & Company. Here's your part of the bay. Tomorrow's numbers aren't just a little warmer if you're inland. And then we're going to see the numbers go up again a few more degrees from there. Watch the colors contour a little bit deeper red. And when I put the numbers on here for Saturday, I'll get out of the way so you can pick out your part of the bay. This is day one of the weekend. And those numbers, those are average daytime highs. And that will feel relatively warm. You haven't done a whole lot of 88-degree days in Concord or 90-degree days in Antioch. You've been kind of close recently, but you really haven't done this much. And as we were talking about a second ago with Devin, yeah, it's going to be a little bit warmer than that by the second half of next week. So let's just get straight into the 7-day forecast. I want to show you what that's going to look like. We'll start out with that inland microclimate, since that's really where we're going to notice this. We won't notice a whole lot change in the bay, temperature-wise. But if you're inland, you will. So there's that little peak here on Saturday. Here's the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday time frame. Tuesday, actually, we do start going up to the low 90s, and then we creep above it from there. So some of these warmer numbers now are getting into the mid-90s as we get towards that second half of the week. So start thinking more. Second half of next week, the readjustment's really going to set in, and you're going to have to remember this is summer after all, and you can easily be getting into the hundreds this time of year. Has that even been a distant thought since May? We did it at the end of May. We really haven't done it since then. it's been an incredible summer in that way. All right, Devin, back to you.
All right, thank you, Darren. It is hard to miss when you drive by it on Highway 101 in Nevada, recognizable by its unique white roof. The former Birkenstock campus is going to be transformed into a world-class art and design museum by the Eames Institute of Infinite Curiosity. The nonprofit purchased the building for $36 million. It highlights the work of husband and wife Ray and Charles Eames, who are best known for their mid-century modern furniture designs. Now, members of the organizations dreamed of what they could use that building for, and now they say it's becoming a reality.
But it also is extremely well suited for large-scale art and other kinds of installations, that we're really excited to share with the world. It's really the power of imagination that we're hoping to spark.
Part of the planned collection will include 40,000 objects from the Eames archives. Other artists and designers will also be featured along with other exhibitions. We're going to be right back right after this.